The first time the Galactic Council witnessed a human battleship, 3 council members fainted. Not from fear, though that would come later, but from the sheer biological impossibility of what they were seeing. Ambassador Thrix of the Vendorian Confederacy, his 12 eye stalks quivering in disbelief, was the first to break the stunned silence. That's not a proper warship. That's a mining platform with guns strapped to it. He wasn't entirely wrong. The HSS Relentless hung in the void outside the observation dome of Galactic Council Station Epsilon, its massive bulk blotting out the stars behind it. The vessel, if one could call such a monstrosity a vessel, stretched nearly 4 kilometers from bow to stern, with irregular protrusions jutting out at seemingly random intervals along its length. Unlike the sleek, symmetrical warships favored by the Council races, the human craft appeared to have been built in sections over time, modules added as needed with little concern for aesthetics. "Impossible," muttered High Chancellor Zix, her feathers ruffling in agitation. "Our sensors indicate that vessel masses over 30 million tons. No civilization at their technological level should be able to move such a structure through space, let alone through faster-than-light travel." The human representative, Commander Sarah Chen, merely smiled. It was the particular kind of smile that humans wore when they knew something you didn't, a trait that had quickly become infamous among Council diplomats in the 3 standard months since first contact. The Relentless was originally a deep space mining platform, Commander Chen explained, her voice carrying an undercurrent of pride that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their gravity couches. "When the Crixian pirates started hitting our outer colonies, we didn't have time to build a proper defense fleet, so we improvised. Improvised." The word seemed to physically pain Ambassador Thrix as he pronounced it. "You cannot simply improvise a warship." "Actually," countered Chen, "you can if you have enough tungsten, determination, and engineers who don't sleep for a week straight." The humans' casual dismissal of what should have been an insurmountable technological hurdle sent ripples of unease through the gathered representatives. In the 3 months since humans had stumbled onto the galactic stage, accidentally intercepting a council communication buoy with what they called a radio telescope, the various races had struggled to categorize these bizarre newcomers. Humans weren't the most advanced species. Their faster-than-light technology was crude at best, borrowed from recovered Crixian scout ships. They weren't the most numerous. Their entire species confined to a single star system and a handful of barely habitable colony worlds. They weren't even particularly united, their planet Earth fractured into hundreds of competing nation-states. Yet somehow, they had managed to repel the Crixian raiders that had been plaguing the Council's outer territories for decades. The report states that this Relentless destroyed 7 Crixian hunter cruisers, said Delegate Orin, his gelatinous form pulsing with agitation. "Our most advanced battleships can barely engage 2 simultaneously. How is this possible?" Commander Chen's expression turned somber. "The Crixians hit our Armstrong colony. 12,000 civilians. We had families there." The simple statement hung in the air, pregnant with implications that made even the most martial council races deeply uncomfortable. High Chancellor Zix cleared her throat, an oddly mammalian gesture she had adopted since dealing with humans. "Perhaps we should discuss the purpose of your visit to Council space, Commander. Your transmission mentioned something about a mutual defense pact." "Yes." Chen nodded, activating a small holographic projector. The image that appeared showed not military formations or weapon specifications, but a map of several dozen star systems. "We've tracked the Crixian raid patterns. They're not random pirates. They're scouts for a much larger force, gathering intelligence on Council defenses." The Council chamber erupted into overlapping voices, some demanding proof, others calling for immediate action. Through it all, Commander Chen stood quietly, letting the panic wash around her like waves breaking against a rock. "When the noise subsided," she continued, "the Crixians hit our colony because they detected our communication with you. They're trying to isolate potential allies before the main invasion begins. We estimate you have less than 6 months before they arrive in force. And what do humans propose? Asked Chancellor Zix, her voice cutting through the renewed murmurs. Chen's smile returned, but there was no humor in it now. We've converted 3 more mining platforms. The Relentless was our prototype. The others are considerably more effective. You expect us to believe that human mining platforms can stand against a Crixian invasion fleet? Scoffed Ambassador Thrix, when our most advanced military technology has failed for decades. With respect, Ambassador, said Chen, your military technology evolved to fight other council races, civilized opponents who follow established conventions of warfare. You build beautiful weapons for beautiful wars. She gestured toward the view screen where the ungainly bulk of the Relentless drifted. Humans don't have that luxury. We build ugly solutions for ugly problems. The human's words triggered a memory in High Chancellor Zix's mind. A classified report from the first Crixian incursions, nearly 30 cycles ago. The Crixian commander, captured briefly before taking his own life, had said something hauntingly similar when asked why they targeted council worlds. You are too beautiful to survive, the Crixian had said. The galaxy has no place for beauty. Looking at the human battleship, this repurposed industrial platform bristling with crude but undeniably effective weaponry, Zix felt a chill run through her hollow bones. For the first time in her 200-cycle life, she wondered if the Crixian had been right. The Council will need to deliberate on your proposal, she said finally. Commander Chen nodded respectfully, but her eyes, those unnervingly expressive human eyes, conveyed a different message. Of course, Chancellor, but remember, the Crixians won't wait for you to finish your debates. As the human representative was escorted from the chamber, the gathered council members erupted into argument once again. No one noticed High Chancellor Zix quietly accessing the classified military database on her private terminal, searching for information on human warfare throughout their history. What she found there, in the confidential files compiled since first contact, would ensure she wouldn't sleep for many cycles to come. High Chancellor Zix stared at her private terminal long after the council session had adjourned. The images displayed before her told a story so different from the carefully cultivated image the humans had presented that she wondered if they were even the same species. Wars. Endless wars. Not against external threats, but against themselves. The historical records showed centuries of conflict on a scale that made the council race's occasional border disputes seem like children's games. World wars that engulfed their entire planet. Cold wars where 2 superpowers held the fate of their species in the balance. Urban warfare. Guerrilla tactics. Asymmetric conflicts where vastly outmatched forces somehow prevail through sheer tenacity and adaptability. And the weapons. Dear stars, the weapons. Chancellor, the emergency subcommittee is assembled. Zix closed the terminal with a quick gesture. Thank you, Lear. I'll join them shortly. Her aide, a slender Pelaxian with skin the color of burnished copper, hesitated at the door. Chancellor, if I may, you seem troubled. These humans, Zix said softly. Have you reviewed the first contact protocols? Of course. Standard procedure for all new species. Zix's feathers rippled in what her species used as a bitter laugh. Do you recall the 7 classification categories we used to determine diplomatic approach? Lear nodded. Technological level, population size, territorial expansion, resource utilization, cultural cohesion, military capability, and philosophical outlook. And where did we place humans in the military capability index? Category 3, I believe. Developing interplanetary capability. Rudimentary fleet tactics, limited understanding off. We were wrong, Zix interrupted. Catastrophically wrong. She rose from her gravity couch, her wings stretching involuntarily with stress. The index measures conventional military development, fleet size, weapon yield, tactical doctrine. It assumes a linear progression of military technology. She gestured at her now darkened terminal. Humans don't follow a linear progression. They leap. They improvise. They repurpose. Like their mining platforms, Lear said quietly. Precisely. We dismissed those vessels because they didn't match our understanding of what a warship should be. Zix moved toward the door. I fear that may be the least of our misunderstandings about humanity. Commander Sarah Chen sat alone in the diplomatic quarters assigned to her, studying the secure tablet that connected her to the HSS Relentless. The messages from Fleet Admiral Torres weren't encouraging. Crixian activity increasing in the Ta CD sector. Intercepted communications suggest accelerated timeline. Estimate 4 months, not 6. Chen sighed, running a hand through her close-cropped black hair. The Council would take at least 3 months to debate the Defense Pact, if they even approved it at all. Humans couldn't afford to wait. Her tablet chimed with a new message. This one from Earth's United Space Command. Eyes only. Operation Hammerfall approved. Proceed at discretion. Chen stared at the message for a long moment before typing her acknowledgement. Hammerfall was the contingency plan, the one they'd hoped not to need. It was aggressive, provocative. It would strain the fragile diplomatic relationship with the Council to the breaking point. It was also humanity's best chance for survival. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. Chen tucked the tablet away and composed her expression. Enter. To her surprise, it was High Chancellor Zix who stepped through the doorway, not the junior diplomatic liaison she'd been expecting. Chancellor, Chen said, rising quickly. This is unexpected. I imagine it is. The avian alien's feathers were slicked flat against her body, a sign of intense concentration, Chen had learned. I came without an official escort. This conversation is not taking place, Commander. Chen felt her pulse quicken, but kept her face neutral. I understand. Zix moved to the room's viewport, her eyes fixed on the distant shape of the Relentless. I've reviewed our intelligence files on humanity. I see. Chen chose her next words carefully. And what conclusions have you drawn? That you are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Zix turned from the viewport. More dangerous than the Crixians. Chen didn't bother denying it. The difference is, we don't want to be. Explain. The Crixians raid, pillage, destroy. It's who they are. Humans. Chen paused, searching for the right words. We're builders, explorers. We want to trade, to learn, to cooperate. But when threatened, when those we care about are in danger, you become something else entirely. Zix finished. Chen nodded slowly. History has taught us to be prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. It's why we converted those mining platforms so quickly. And the other ships, the ones you mentioned in the council meeting. They exist, Chen said simply. The Chancellor's feathers ruffled slightly. How many? Enough. The two leaders regarded each other in silence for a long moment. Then Zix said, the Council will not approve your defense pact in time. Most still don't believe the Crixian threat is imminent. And you. I believe we have gravely underestimated both the Crixians and humanity. Zix's voice lowered. Some on the Council fear that aligning with humans would simply replace one threat with another. Chen smiled without humor. They're not entirely wrong to worry. Yet here I am, Zix said, secretly discussing how to bypass Council procedure because despite those fears, I believe we need your help. What are you proposing? Zix produced a small data crystal. Patrol routes, defense codes, fleet positions, everything you would need to coordinate with Council forces without official sanction. Chen stared at the crystal. The implications clear. This is treason against the Council. It is also survival. Zix set the crystal on a small table between them. I have led the Council for 30 cycles, Commander. In that time, 17 outer colonies have fallen to Crixian raids. Billions dead or enslaved while we debated and deliberated. Why didn't you act sooner? Because until now, we had no viable strategy against them. Zix gestured toward the viewport where the Relentless hung among the stars. Your ugly solutions may be what we need for this ugly problem. Chen picked up the crystal, weighing more than its physical presence in her palm. The council won't thank you for this. If we succeed, there will still be a council to pass judgment. Zix moved toward the door. If we fail, their opinion will be irrelevant. As the door slid shut behind the chancellor, Chen activated her secure tablet once more. Operation Hammerfall had just become significantly more complicated, and perhaps more likely to succeed. Outside the viewport, the stars continued their silent vigil, unaware of the coming storm. 3 weeks after her clandestine meeting with High Chancellor Zix, Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the HSS Relentless, watching as the massive viewscreen displayed a tactical map of the Helia sector. Red markers, far too many of them, indicated confirmed Crixian vessels. "They're not even trying to hide anymore," muttered Captain Rivera, his weathered face grim in the blue glow of the tactical displays. "It's like they want us to know they're coming." "They do," Chen replied. "Psychological warfare. They've used the same tactics against the Council for decades. Show overwhelming force, break morale before the battle even begins." The captain snorted. "Doesn't work so well against people who've already accepted they're outnumbered." That was the truth of humanity's situation. Even with the converted mining platforms, now designated as Bulwark-class dreadnoughts, and the Council ships secretly coordinating with them, thanks to Zix's data crystal, they remained drastically outgunned. The Crixian invasion fleet had grown to over 300 vessels, nearly triple the initial estimates. "Admiral Torres is repositioning the Sentinel and the Bastion to cover the approach to Epsilon Station," said Lieutenant Park, the communications officer. "Council forces are complying, though their commanders are asking questions." "Let them ask," Chen said. "As long as they follow the Chancellor's orders, we can make this work." The truth was less certain. Operation Hammerfall had been designed as a delaying action, a desperate plan to buy Earth time to prepare its defenses. With Zix's help, it had evolved into something more ambitious, a coordinated trap that might, if everything went perfectly, actually stop the Crixian advance. But nothing in war ever went perfectly. "Commander," Captain Rivera said quietly, moving to stand beside her at the tactical display. "The crew should know what we're facing." Chen nodded slowly. The Relentless carried over 5,000 personnel, miners, engineers, and technicians who had volunteered to convert their industrial vessel into an instrument of war. They deserved to know the odds. She activated the ship-wide comm system. "This is Commander Chen. In approximately 72 hours, we will engage the main Crixian invasion fleet at the edge of the Helia sector." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "I won't misrepresent our situation. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting an enemy that has never known defeat in open combat." Throughout the massive vessel, crews paused in their work, listening to the calm, steady voice of their commander. But the Crixians have never faced humans before. They've never faced a species that turned mining platforms into dreadnoughts, cargo haulers into carriers, and survey ships into stealth scouts. Her voice hardened. Most importantly, they've never faced a species with nothing left to lose. Our colonies are evacuated. Our families are safe. All that remains is to show the Crixians exactly what happens when they threaten human worlds. She ended the transmission and turned back to the tactical display. "Resume course for the rendezvous point. All departments on war footing." As the crew returned to their duties with renewed purpose, Chen found herself wondering if she had just delivered a rousing speech or a eulogy. On Epsilon Station, High Chancellor Zix faced a crisis. "You deliberately circumvented Council authority," Ambassador Thrix accused, his eye stalks quivering with rage. "You provided classified military intelligence to an unvetted species." The emergency session of the Council had been called when a mid-level bureaucrat discovered unusual fleet movements. Council warships repositioning to align with human vessels without official orders. "I acted to ensure our survival," Zix replied, her feathers bristling. While this council debates and delays, the Crixians gather for a full-scale invasion. "So you claim," said Delegate Orin, his gelatinous form pulsing with skepticism. "Yet the only evidence of this invasion fleet comes from human sources or your own select intelligence officers." Zix spread her wings in frustration. "Because the rest of our intelligence apparatus has been systematically compromised. The Crixians have been placing agents within our governments for decades. It's why we've never been able to counter their raids effectively." The accusation sent shockwaves through the council chamber. Several delegates began speaking at once, demanding proof or denouncing the Chancellor's claims as fearmongering. "Order!" shouted Vice-Chancellor Mock, his metallic voice cutting through the chaos. When the chamber quieted, he turned to Zix. "Chancellor, these are extraordinary claims. If you have evidence of Crixian infiltration, why haven't you presented it before now?" "Because until the humans arrived, we had no way to act on it," Zix said. "No way to coordinate a response without tipping our hand to the Crixian agents among us." She activated the chamber's main display, showing the tactical situation in the Helios sector. The same display Commander Chen was studying aboard the Relentless. "In 3 days, the largest Crixian fleet ever assembled will enter this sector. They expect to find our forces scattered and uncoordinated, as they always have before. Instead, they will encounter a joint Human Council battle group operating under a unified command structure that bypasses our compromised communications." "This is madness," Thrix said. "You've committed us to a war without authorization." "The Crixians committed us to this war 30 cycles ago," Zix countered. "I've simply given us a fighting chance to win it." The council chamber erupted again, but this time Vice-Chancellor Mock made no attempt to restore order. Instead, he moved closer to Zix and spoke in a low voice that only she could hear. "You realize this will end your career, regardless of the outcome." Zix's feathers rippled in that bitter laugh. "If we lose, none of us will have careers to worry about." Aboard the Crixian command vessel Inevitable Conquest, Supreme Commander Vexkar reviewed the final approach to the Helios sector with cold satisfaction. "The Council forces are scattered, just as our agents predicted," said his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Razik. "Their largest concentration is here, at Epsilon Station, but they've positioned several battle groups along our projected route, as if they expect to delay our advance with hit-and-run attacks." "Predictable," Vexkar said, his scaled skin shifting patterns in the way his species showed amusement. "And the humans? Their vessels remain clustered near their colony worlds. Primitive design, minimal maneuverability. Our analysis suggests they're primarily defensive platforms." Vexkar studied the tactical display, 6 eyes narrowing. Something felt wrong. The pattern was too neat, too convenient. The intercepted Council communications confirmed their defense plan. He asked. "Yes, Supreme Commander. Our agents report the Council remains divided on how to respond to our advance. Many still doubt our numbers." Yet Vexkar couldn't shake his unease. In 300 cycles of Crixian expansion, they had never encountered significant resistance. The Council races were too civilized, too bound by protocol and consensus to mount an effective defense. But these humans, the reports from the scouting raids troubled him. A species that converted mining platforms into warships did not think like the Council races. They were unpredictable, dangerous. "Alter our approach," he ordered suddenly. "Bypass the Rigel corridor entirely." Razik's scales shifted to patterns of confusion. "Supreme Commander, that will add nearly a full cycle to our journey." "Yes," Vexkar agreed. "And it will completely avoid the area where the Council appears to be setting their ambush." "You believe the intelligence is false." Vexkar turned all 6 eyes to the tactical display, focusing on the crude human vessels. "I believe we face an enemy unlike any we have encountered before, and I will not underestimate them." As the massive Crixian fleet began its course adjustment, alarm signals triggered throughout the human and Council sensor networks. Operation Hammerfall, so carefully planned, was suddenly in jeopardy. On the bridge of the Relentless, Commander Chen stared at the updated tactical display with a sinking feeling. They're changing course. They know. Captain Rivera's face paled. The entire operation depends on the Crixians following the expected route. If they bypass our position, then we've lost our one advantage, Chen finished. And Earth is directly in their new path. Commander Chen stared at the tactical display, the blue glow illuminating the grim faces of her bridge crew. The Crixian fleet's course change had blindsided them completely. Earth now lay directly in their path, with only minimal defenses in place. We need to warn Earth Command immediately, Captain Rivera said, already moving toward the communication station. Chen raised her hand. Wait. Something wasn't adding up. The Crixians had altered their course too suddenly, too decisively, as if they'd known exactly where the trap was set. Pull up the intelligence reports from the last 48 hours, she ordered. All communication between our fleet and the Council ships. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew across his console. Commander, there's been a massive amount of data exchange. It will take time to focus on communications to and from Epsilon Station, particularly after Chancellor Zix was called to the Emergency Council session. As Park worked, Chen moved to the main viewport, staring out at the stars as if they might offer answers. The Crixians were tactical masters, but this move seemed almost prescient. Commander, Park's voice was tight with tension. I found something. Chen turned. Show me. The lieutenant transferred the data to the main screen. It showed communication logs between Epsilon Station and several council vessels, routine transmissions, mostly, but one caught Chen's attention immediately. A burst transmission, heavily encrypted, sent just hours after Zix had been summoned by the council. Can you decode it? Park shook his head. It's using a council diplomatic cipher. We don't have the keys. But we know who might, Chen said quietly. She opened a secure channel to Epsilon Station. I need to speak with High Chancellor Zix. Priority Alpha. The response came not from Zix, but from Vice Chancellor Mach. His metallic voice carried an unmistakable note of satisfaction. The Chancellor is currently detained pending investigation into her unauthorized actions. I speak for the Council now. Chen's blood ran cold. Vice Chancellor, we have reason to believe your communications have been compromised. The Crixians have changed course to avoid our trap. Yes, Commander, we are aware. Mach's voice betrayed no concern. The Council has taken appropriate measures to secure our borders. By doing what? The Crixian fleet will reach Earth in less than 36 hours. There was a pause, just long enough to be deliberate. The Council has determined that the human colonies represent an acceptable sacrifice to secure peace. The bridge fell silent as the implications became clear. Captain Rivera was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. They've made a deal. Chen cut the transmission without another word. The pieces fell into place with terrible clarity. Not all council members had been infiltrated by Crixian agents. Some had willingly collaborated. Zix had discovered this and tried to circumvent them by working directly with humans. Now she was imprisoned, and the collaborators were in control. All hands to battle stations, Chen ordered, her voice deadly calm. And get me Admiral Torres. We're implementing Contingency Omega. Captain Rivera paled. Commander, Contingency Omega hasn't been authorized. It's a theoretical last resort scenario that. Chen nodded grimly. Begin Phase 2. All ships. Execute the Theseus Protocol. Throughout the human fleet, hidden compartments opened in the ungainly, asymmetrical hulls. What emerged weren't conventional weapons, but thousands of manned assault craft, each holding 5 humans in powered combat armor. They're launching fighters, Sub-Commander Razik reported, his scales shifting to patterns of alarm. Thousands of them. Vexkar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human vessels had been hollowed out, converted into massive carriers for what appeared to be a boarding action. No species in known space fought this way, sacrificing range advantage to engage in close-quarters combat. It was primitive, Reckless, suicidal. It was working. The human assault craft swarmed through the Crixian formation, targeting engine sections and command nodes. Unlike conventional fighters, they didn't attempt to destroy the ships. They breached the hulls and disgorged their armored troops directly into the Crixian vessels. Boarding parties reported on 37 ships. Razik's voice rose in panic. They're taking control of our vessels. Vexkar finally understood. The humans hadn't been preparing for a conventional space battle. They'd been preparing for piracy on an unprecedented scale. They couldn't match the Crixian fleet ship for ship, so they were stealing them instead. All vessels, initiate self-destruct protocols, he ordered. But the command network was already compromised. Ship after ship fell silent as human boarding parties seized control of critical systems. On the bridge of the Relentless, Chen watched as the Crixian formation began to disintegrate. Status report. 42 Crixian vessels captured intact, Captain Rivera reported, barely concealing his amazement. Another 16 disabled. The rest are breaking formation, attempting to regroup. Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before turning to her communications officer. Open a channel to the Crixian command ship. The massive view screen flickered, revealing Supreme Commander Vexkar's reptilian features. His scales shifted through patterns of rage and disbelief. This is Commander Chen of the United Earth Fleet. Your position is compromised. Your formation broken. Withdraw now, or we'll continue capturing your ships one by one. Impossible, Vexkar hissed. No species would risk such tactics. That's where you're wrong, Chen replied. Humans have been boarding enemy vessels since we sailed wooden ships on Earth's oceans. It's practically a tradition. As she spoke, a new alert sounded. Lieutenant Park's eyes widened. Commander, sensors detect multiple Council warships dropping out of FTL. They are on an intercept course with the Crixian fleet. The view screen split to reveal High Chancellor Zix, her feathers disheveled but her eyes fierce. The Council collaborators have been contained, Commander. Our forces are engaging the remaining Crixian vessels. Caught between the captured ships under human control and the newly arrived Council fleet, the Crixian invasion force found itself in an impossible position. Supreme Commander Vexkar stared at Chen with all 6 eyes, seeing not just defeat, but the end of Crixian expansion. You understand this changes everything, he said finally. The galaxy will never be the same. Chen nodded. That was the idea. As the remainder of the Crixian fleet signaled their surrender, Captain Rivera moved to Chen's side. It worked, he said quietly. Your insane plan actually worked. Not my plan, Chen corrected, glancing at the image of Chancellor Zix on the view screen. A joint effort. The first of many, I hope. Zix's feathers rippled in what Chen now recognized as laughter. Indeed, Commander. Though I suspect the galaxy may not be ready for what comes next. Chen smiled. They rarely are when humans get involved. 3 weeks after the battle that would later be known as the Helios Reversal, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the newly reconstructed council chamber on Epsilon Station. The room had been redesigned, the traditional circular arrangement replaced with a horseshoe configuration that now included a section for human representatives. It was a small change that symbolized a much larger shift in galactic politics. The terms of surrender have been accepted by the remaining Crixian leadership, announced High Chancellor Zix, her feathers gleaming in the soft light. Their fleet has been disbanded, their colonies placed under joint council human oversight. The gathered representatives, some still visibly uncomfortable with the changes, murmured among themselves. Not all were pleased with humanity's sudden prominence, but none could deny the results. And what of the collaborators? Asked Ambassador Thrix, his eye stalks subdued. He had been cleared of involvement, but several of his aides had been among those who betrayed the council. They will stand trial for treason, Zix replied. As will those Crixian commanders responsible for atrocities against council and human worlds. Chen watched the proceedings with a mixture of pride and caution. The alliance forged in desperation had held, but the real work was just beginning. Already, Some council races were expressing concern about the 42 Crixian warships now under human control, a fleet that, combined with the remaining Bulwark-class dreadnoughts, made humanity a significant military power overnight. "Commander Chen," Zix said, drawing her attention back to the present, "would you like to address the Council regarding the proposed defense pact?" Chen moved to the central podium, feeling the weight of countless alien eyes upon her. She had spent the past week in negotiations, hammering out terms that would protect human interests while reassuring the Council that Earth had no imperial ambitions. The United Earth Government extends its formal gratitude to the Galactic Council for their assistance in repelling the Crixian threat. She began, the diplomatic phrases feeling strange after weeks of battle commands. "We propose a mutual defense alliance that recognizes both our unique capabilities and shared vulnerabilities." She activated a holographic display showing the modified mining platforms, now officially classified as Bulwark-class dreadnoughts, alongside more conventional Council warships. Humans excel at adaptation and unconventional tactics. The Council excels at coordination and advanced technology. Together, we create a deterrent far greater than either could establish alone. As she outlined the specifics of the proposed alliance, Chen caught sight of Captain Rivera standing at the back of the chamber. He gave her a subtle nod of approval. The captain had been promoted to command the Relentless, while Chen had reluctantly accepted her new role as humanity's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. When she finished her proposal, the chamber was silent for a long moment before Chancellor Zix spoke. "I move that we accept Ambassador Chen's proposal and formalize the Human Council Defense Accord." The vote was not unanimous. Chen hadn't expected it to be, but it passed comfortably. As the session adjourned, Zix approached her privately. "You've changed everything," the Chancellor said, her voice pitched low. "Some on the Council fear what humanity might become with access to our technology and knowledge." Chen smiled slightly. "And what do you think, Chancellor?" "I think the galaxy has grown too comfortable, too predictable," Zix replied. "Perhaps we needed the chaos humans bring." "Chaos?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "We prefer to call it innovation." Later, as Chen stood at the observation dome watching technicians install the new human embassy module onto Epsilon Station, Captain Rivera joined her. "Hard to believe it's only been 3 months since we first contacted the Council," he said. "From first contact to saving the galaxy, that's got to be some kind of record." Chen chuckled. "Don't let it go to your head. We still have a lot to learn about being part of a galactic community. And they have a lot to learn about humans," Rivera countered. "Did you see their faces when you explained we want to convert the captured Crixian ships into exploration vessels?" "Exploration has always been in our blood," Chen said, gazing out at the stars. "But now we've got a whole galaxy to discover." As if to emphasize her point, a sleek Council courier ship emerged from FTL at the edge of the station's defense perimeter. It would be carrying diplomatic dispatches, trade proposals, and scientific exchange offers, the mundane but essential foundation of their new interstellar relationships. The human battleship's arrival had indeed left the Galactic Council in chaos. But from that chaos, something unprecedented had emerged, a partnership that would reshape the course of galactic history for centuries to come. And somewhere out among those distant stars, new challenges waited. But for now, at least, humanity had earned its place at the table.